In an escalation of violence, an Israeli airstrike on Saturday has tragically claimed the lives of over 100 people and injured dozens more. This strike targeted a school in eastern Gaza, which was serving as a shelter for displaced individuals. The Palestinian news agency WAFA and the Hamas-run Gaza government media have reported that the attack occurred during Fajr prayers, leading to a significant rise in casualties. This recent incident is part of a disturbing pattern of attacks on educational facilities over the past 2 weeks. On August 4th, 2 schools in Gaza City that were also being used as shelters were struck, resulting in the deaths of 30 people. Earlier, on August 3rd, an attack on Hamama School in Gaza City claimed 17 lives, and on August 1st, 15 people were killed in a strike on Dalal al-Mughrabi school. Israel's military operations in Gaza have intensified, with officials asserting that many of the targeted buildings, including schools, are being used by terrorists and act as Hamas command centers. The ongoing conflict has led to a catastrophic humanitarian crisis, with over 40,000 Palestinians reported dead in Gaza over the past 10 months. The international community remains deeply concerned about the worsening situation and the humanitarian impact on the region. The international response to the crisis has included calls for ceasefires and humanitarian aid to alleviate the suffering of those affected. However, political and logistical challenges have hampered the delivery of essential supplies and support to the beleaguered population in Gaza. Efforts by global organizations and governments to mediate peace and provide relief are ongoing, but the complexity of the conflict and entrenched positions on both sides make resolution difficult. The repeated attacks on civilian infrastructure, including schools, have drawn widespread condemnation from human rights groups and the international community. These incidents have raised concerns about the adherence to international humanitarian laws and the protection of civilians during armed conflict. The humanitarian crisis has intensified calls for renewed diplomatic efforts to address the underlying issues fueling the violence and to find a sustainable resolution to the conflict. In response to the mounting pressure, some nations and organizations are advocating for increased diplomatic engagement and negotiations aimed at de-escalating the conflict. There are calls for both parties to return to the negotiating table to address core issues such as security, territorial disputes, and humanitarian access. The hope is that renewed dialogue might pave the way for a lasting ceasefire and eventual peace agreement. Despite these efforts, the immediate situation remains dire, with ongoing violence exacerbating the humanitarian conditions in Gaza. The international community's focus remains on providing emergency assistance, supporting diplomatic initiatives, and addressing the urgent needs of the displaced and affected populations. The resolution of the conflict will depend on the willingness of both sides to engage in meaningful negotiations and the effectiveness of international diplomatic efforts.